I got a text about 2 weeks ago. In fact, it was just before school gathered up and started again. And it was from my son. And he asked me, he says, Dad, do you have a milk crate? And I thought about that. And I said, yeah, I do have a milk crate. I'm pretty sure I have one in the garage. And he said, well, I need one. In fact, I need 3, but if you have one, that would be pretty helpful. I said, sure, I'll dig it out of the garage. I think I had a bunch of miscellaneous tools and welding supplies in it. Put that in a different box. So I went to drop it by his house, and he wasn't there at the time, so I just put it on the steps. And I finally got a text back with him. He said, oh, thank you so much. I can't believe you knew what a crate was. And in fact, it was a real one. It said Dairy Gold milk on it. And I said, yeah, you probably don't know much about that kind of stuff, but we had a nice little conversation on it, and I said, well, what are you going to use them for? Well, he was going to stack 3 of them up and make a bookcase for his office where he teaches. He teaches over at Hutch. And I said, well, great, that'll work out fine. So that ended the conversation. And I went into when he's spinning nostalgia. I was thinking back of milk crate days. And I could remember myself at 6 years old, sitting in the kitchen there and watching my mom wash milk bottles. And when she was done, she'd dry them off. And she'd give them to me. She said, well, go out and put them in the crate in the back. The milkman should be here at any time. Let me make something clear here. The milkman was driving a truck. I'm not that old. It wasn't a carriage and horse, okay? So it was my duty at 6 years old to take the bottles out, pick up the milk, bring them back in, stick them in the refrigerator. And that goes to show you recycling is nothing new in this country. That used to be done all the time. So those are fond memories, warm memories, typical nostalgia. And we find ourselves in that situation a lot. And in a lot of ways, it can be healthy, especially when it's of good feelings and good memories. But the Bible warns us about that in some regards because it can be a source of not happy times, and it keeps us in the past, thinking about, I wish it were different, and not accepting what has happened. The best example I can give you is that the children of Israel in the wilderness were continually murmuring and not content with their present life. They had nostalgia and yearned to go back to the old life in Egypt. They forgot the suffering and the misery and the slavery. But as we find in Exodus 16:3, and the sons of Israel said to them, would that we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, when we ate bread in full. For you have brought us out in the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. So they weren't real happy about what was happening, but obviously they must have forgot about the bad parts of being in slavery. And so that is not a very constructive way to approach your life. So we have to be careful about what we are nostalgic about. The Israelites' unbelief and distrust in God's love caused them to wander for 40 years in the wilderness, as referenced in Numbers 32:13, instead of searching and researching their destination in a matter of weeks. Theirs was a sin of unbelief and discontent. They had every reason to rejoice in the Lord for the great delivery from slavery that he had given them, and for his daily watch care over them by supplying them food, water, and protection. Instead, they chose to complain. Now, nostalgia is not an evil when it's experienced in a healthy way, but unfortunately, it often leads to life in the past and make them not ready to deal with present problems. People should not worry about the future, nor dwell on the past. Christians can be free from anxiety during the most distressing circumstances, fully assured that God, who does everything well, will make all things work together for good for his faithful ones. And if the Lord allows suffering and hardship to come upon his children, it is not to destroy them, but to refine them. I'm in Philippians 3:13, and we find this discussion kind of at the end of the discussion, but he had some interesting references to this. Brethren, I do not regard myself as having laid hold of it yet, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and reaching forward to what lives ahead. I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Let us therefore, as many are perfect, have this attitude. And if in anything have a different attitude, God will reveal that also to you. However, let us keep living by the same standard to which we have attained. It's one thing certainly true, and that is, as far as nostalgia and things that we can hold dear to our heart with confidence and peace, is the fact that 100 years ago, our Bible and scriptures and the grace of Christ was very much alive and truth. It still is today, and it still will be 100 years from now. If there's anyone needing prayers in any way, please come forward now as we